thing. This one's kind of old. It's 2824 on the date code, which means it was built on the 282nd day of. Looking by the age of this thing, it's not that bad, so maybe it was 2014. It's really hard to tell. 2004, 2018, I don't know. But yeah, it's in pretty good shape. The inside of it was pretty awful, actually. Very, very crusty, nasty. But yeah, we're going to slam this thing together. And then this one is actually going on the website. It's one I traded for a few weeks ago and haven't really gotten to it. So going to get it put together, and then I'll throw it for sale on the website. It's in okay shape. I don't know if you can tell. It's got, see that line right there? The white stuff is a little chalky, which just means it's had some deterioration of the coating that's on these, which means it's not long for this world. Maybe a couple more years of good service out of it. If you take good care of it, it's probably all right, but not too bad, but certainly not the greatest. So anyway, Holley rebuild. We've done a ton of these videos in the past on rebuilding Edelbrocks. We've done a couple on rebuilding some Holleys. I did a couple live streams on that. It's been a while since we've done a rebuild on a live stream. Actually, I think probably 6 months or so. I can't remember. It's been a long time, but it's certainly when I was looking back through the videos to see how long it's been I've done it. But anyway, Holleys aren't that complicated. For those of you all that have not rebuilt one before, they are pretty simple. So, like any other carburetor, if you've never rebuilt one, the best thing to do is to take some pictures of what you're working on. Take a few pictures of it coming apart. That way you kind of know where everything goes. I always lay product out there, or the hardware and everything out there, just so I know where it goes. But there is no official way that these are supposed to be assembled. Now I will show you how I do it. Kind of. I will skip around. Depends on if my ADD's kicking in or whatever. But usually I'll assemble the bowl stuff first. Takes just drop the floats, needle and seats and everything in there. We do need to get some of that out. So let me get some. I've got a rebuild kit. These are available at O'Reilly's. They used to carry the Holley branded rebuild kit for the Holley 4150 and 4160s. 5, 6, 7 years ago, I can't remember. They switched to a different brand, still made in the USA. I believe these are probably made by Walker, but the brand name shouldn't be too difficult. Edelbrocks produced these rebuild kits for quite a few years, so very, very complete. I typically use the AED kit. I like it a lot because it comes with a lot of hardware in it that some of the other rebuild kits don't, but I think this one is still... Oh, no. Hang on. I think I've got one over here that I haven't opened. Yeah, it's a little crushed. I'll go ahead and open this one so you can see what's in it. But yeah, they come pretty complete. And they're universal. I think they only offer 2 part numbers. This is for the 4150. Then they've got a part number for the 4160. So some gaskets, the big 50cc pump, that's nice. 2 of the 30cc, which is what we've got today. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those out. Needle and seat assemblies, I'm going to steal those out of here. I think that's a 6.5 on the power valve. With my old eyes, it's a 6.5, so we're going to keep that out. Needle and seat, all the gaskets, another needle and seat assembly. We'll hang on to that. And there's some miscellaneous stuff in there. But I just wanted to show you what was available in that kit. It's pretty complete. I think they're a few bucks cheaper than the Holley kits, but it's been a while since I bought a Holley kit. I usually just typically buy these either direct from Edelbrock or on the directly from O'Reilly's if I need it. So just wanted to show you that real quick. All right, set some of that aside. If you've got any comments, don't hesitate. Please leave them in the chat. I will. We're gonna need that. I will definitely answer them as we go along tonight. Oop, just need one of those. What else am I missing? It's kind of horrible, actually. This is one of the smaller kits that I have. I had a bigger master kit and loaned it to somebody, and it never came back. And he's long since moved. At least I can't find him, or he doesn't answer his phone, and it's not his anymore. So, yeah, quite a few years of Holley small parts gone. All right, let me look at the chat here. Tearing down your 650 double pumper. That's cool, Blaze Garage. They are not complicated, that's for sure. But like I said, that Edelbrock, rebuild kit from O'Reilly's is pretty good. Certainly you can buy the Holley branded one. I have no issue there. Obviously, the Holley stuff is just as good. I don't know who makes the Holley rebuild kits. I'd have to take a look at their price file to see if what country of origin they have on that, but who knows these days. It's kind of a hit or miss with stuff, but if it's theirs and they like it, I guess it's good. So don't know. It's always a good idea to ask. If you're buying parts from a retailer, Summit, Jags, whatever, just tell them, hey, I've got my brother-in-law. I'm sending this, whatever it is that you ordered. I'm sending this up to my brother-in-law, and he lives in Canada. Can you give me the harmonized tariff code, country of origin for the part? And they'll tell you right there. Usually they'll email it to you because you have to put that on the direct declaration going across the border. It's just an easy way of trying to figure out where something's made. So neither here nor there. Some people will try to figure that out every single time, but I don't know. It's just a good way of knowing where your stuff comes from if that concerns you. I don't know how much that concerns people these days. I don't really think made in the U.S. unfortunately means a whole lot anymore. Using the AED kit, you'll like that AED kit. I did what was that, a few months? Well, I guess that was the last Edelbrock or the Holley rebuild I did. I did a double pumper with the AED kit. So if you want to look at that, you can see what's in that AED kit. Really like that one. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the float bowls here together. Like I said, if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate. Leave them in the chat, and I promise I will try to get to you very, very quickly here. So, but yeah, like I said, there's no right or wrong way here. I'll do some of these sub-assembly stuff, like we'll do you got the wrong size screwdriver here. I will do the metering blocks next, and then really once you get all that done, it just kind of all slams together. Floats aren't overly complicated, but little pro tip there on the floats if you've never rebuilt, and this goes for the Edelbrock carburetors as well too. Anytime you got a brass float in it, these sometimes have the tendency to break the seal at the seams here, where they're kind of soldered together. Sometimes on the backside where the float attaches to it, sometimes you'll develop little pinholes. Mineral spirits has got the same density as fuel does. If you don't want to have a open container of gas in your garage, which is a good idea, go ahead and dunk those in there and leave them in there overnight, whatever, a couple hours. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. And then pull them back out of there, wipe them off, shake them. If you can hear fuel sloshing around there, you know you got a pinhole or a leak in the float and you'll need to replace them. But just a little tip there. Get some of the gaskets out of here. The sight plug for the float. I guess I better do that next. Like I said, you can kind of figure these a little bit. Now, when you set the floats on a Holley, we'll usually do it so it's a little lower than you'll probably need it. Maybe the float just a little higher than midway, so that's the way it'll sit, and it's up against the float, so just a little higher than that seam midway of the float bowl is usually enough. It'll give you enough fuel in there, but it won't overfill it. So, and then you can adjust the floats once you get it up and running. But the gaskets that Edelbrock provides, we'll put our little adjusting nut on and the lock screw. So Holleys are really easy to set up. They're not they are certainly not complicated at all. And we'll lock that down here in a minute. But anyway, they're not overly complicated, but the Edelbrocks aren't complicated either. People overcomplicate things with carburetors. The only thing that's really complicated are, you know, those OE carburetors, the Quadrajet, Thermoquad. Q-Jet's really difficult. I just got one the other day. You want to talk about a complicated carburetor? That thing is complicated. Accelerator, pump, you know, flows, does the exact same thing every carburetor does, just flows fuel based on the air. But transfer slots, idle mixture screw, you know, they're not, everything's the same on this carburetor as it is on that carburetor. It's just in different spots, different locations, different things that are, you know, attached to it, different choke mechanisms, different ways of taking care of emissions if the carburetor is that way. This one happens to be off of a 70 or 71 truck, which is kind of ironic because I got a 71 GMC, but this is for a manual transmission truck. So anyway, I don't know what to do with it. I was probably just going to go into my core pile, and I will use it if I need it. Still got a little bit of cleaning fluid on there, so you know, let me look at the chat here. AJ Cates, welcome to the video, sir. I am having a very good night, actually. Had a pretty rough week, actually, but I am not going to let that affect my my weekend, especially when I'm not doing anything other than something that I really like doing, and that's hanging out with you all. Again, I grabbed the wrong side of screwdriver, but oh wow. Oh well. Yeah, I hope you all are having a good day. It's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks here we had 70-degree days and then 60s, and then that cold front came through that I think everybody got, and then we were back into the 60s again for a few days or a few weeks or a week or so maybe, and last week we had a bunch of ice storm come through. It was just crap. I hate that stuff. It's a nice thing about living in the Mid-South, though. It's not going to be around much longer. So, like anything else on these carburetors, that'll box the same. Any of these attachment points to the main body, carburetor, or the base plate, inside the float bowls, you don't need to torque, just snug. They don't need to be, you know, elephant man tight on there. Just don't need it. So, no need at all. Just snug it down. I get quite a few carburetors throughout the year. But somebody has went a little too crazy on tightening things down and stripped out the base plate or the main body or whatever. And once you do that, unless you're really good with a time cert or a helicoil or something like that, you are in a lot of dookie. There it is. So yeah, just don't over tighten things in here. No need to. Like these sight, they're at seated, just a little bit of snug and it's fine. For whatever reason, folks, on the if you use AN style fittings on here, for whatever reason, that's what throws people off. We've talked about that before. You don't need to use any grease or oil on an AN fitting. They don't need Teflon tape. None of that stuff. As soon as you do that on an AN fitting, you will screw up how they seal. That 37-degree taper that's on an AN fitting. I don't think I've got anything. I don't have any laying around here. But that 37-degree taper that's on there, that are on most AN fittings anyway, that'll seal it. You just snug it up. If it needs to go a little bit tighter, you can. But again, it doesn't need to be elephant man tight. So, double pumpers on this series anyway. Single power valve. That's why you know this is always the rear, because it doesn't have a power valve in it. These metering blocks are identical in that they can be drilled either way. So at least some of them are. I don't know if this series is the same way, being that this is potentially the supercharger rated. Trying to look, see where that number is on here. Yeah, they've got some different casting numbers on there. It'll tell you what the well diameter is, I believe. At least on the new Edelbrock VRS carburetor, they're on there. I thought they were on here too. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. Where's my power valve at? But yeah, since this is a 600, it'll go back with the 6.5 power valve. When a power valve opens, those little slots there, those little pinholes, I don't know if you can see that on the video, I guess you can. That's what meters the fuel. When you have a, it's backwards on the camera, so every time I make a move, it's the other way. But you can drill these out and put a little different orifice size in here. I would be very careful. There's some YouTube videos out there, I think, probably on that. I may do one down the road to show you how to do that, where you can drill that out, and that way you can meter more fuel when the power valve opens. But it's a delicate situation, and if you screw that up, it's over. Your metering block becomes junk. One thing on this is just to make sure you get that gasket centered on there. That's why you saw me push it with the Again, just snug. Doesn't need to be tight and wrenched down on there, just snug. Let's see what's going on in the chat. -20. Chew. I hope that's Celsius that you're talking about there, buddy. Mr. Bridge Burners. I hope that's Celsius, but even then, that's too damn cold for me. Let's talk about jets. What was in this? This had a funky jet in it. It's a 76. Kind of don't have my glasses on. Alright, there's our other 76. Let me see if I can clean that up. They were funky sizes, if I remember right. And we're definitely going to change them and put in a different jet size here. Let's see if that cleaned it up. Yeah. So 76 and 68s. I'm going to go 66 and 72s in this one, and then these will just go back in my... Where's my jet box? What did I say I was going to put in here? 66, I think. Yeah, 66. I'm also out of some of these jets too. I need to reorder some. There's my 66. And there's my 72s. Some of the common sizes I have tons of, but it's always good to have one of those. You're going to work on a Holley carburetor. They're a little bit of money, but oh, so worth it if you're trying to tune these. So 66 is here in the primary. But yeah, certainly when you get to tune these, sometimes at swap meets you can find somebody selling. Again, don't need to over tighten these. They're just... That's a screwdriver that I modify these to make them, grind them down so they're a little wider, and then I can narrow it down so it's perfect size for a jet screwdriver. You don't need to spend 20 bucks on a jet screwdriver. If you've got one, just make one. So, not overly picky about stuff like that, but save money where you can, I guess. Buy the right tools. Buy good tools, but save money where you can, that's for sure. Alright. Got those snug down. Gaskets. Let's see, what else did... Oh, accelerator pumps. I guess we should probably do that. Yeah. Like I said, this has some, some calcium that's starting to eat away in there. And, like I said, this carburetor is going to be good for a while. I may keep this one and run it on the truck, because I'm going to put the 650 VRS carburetor that we did the review on. I'm going to put that on, but maybe I'll keep the 600 and not sell it right away, and that way I can do a back-to-back test on it. I think everybody's going to want to know what the difference is between the VRS 650 and a 650 or 600 Holley. It's going to be a little difficult, so I don't know if I'm going to or not, simply because the truck isn't made to make a ton of horsepower. If it makes 350, 360, I'll be pretty happy. It's a pretty mild 350, 30 over 350. Don't remember the cam specs, and I don't think I have the cam card laying around here. But anyway, spring goes in first, and the diaphragm, and your little accelerator pump cover. But yeah, it's not an overly aggressive little small box, just going into a cruiser in that little GMC truck. So so I'm not overly worried about how much horsepower it makes. So maybe that's not the best that's not the best comparison. When we do the Chevelle, when we do the big block for the Chevelle, I am definitely going to do that with the 800, and then we will do a comparison with the that one's a little jacked up. Somebody's cross-threaded that at one point. But yeah, maybe that's what we'll do, is we'll do the, that way I could do more of a dyno comparison between the 800 or 850 VRS and an 800, 850 Holley. Probably an HP series, because that's about the only thing that's close competitor on the Edelbrock, but the Edelbrock's got way more features on it. If you haven't seen that video I did on the VRS carburetor, for the amount of money those things are, holy hell, you get a lot of adjustability in it. Stuff that you probably aren't going to use, but certainly killer. Edelbrock knocked it out of the park on that one. I know they spent quite a few years developing it, actually. So, kind of cool what they did there, especially in today's day and age where everybody's talking about, you know, that, you know, everybody's pushing towards electric, and I get it. You know, if you want an electric vehicle, I'm not gonna. Who am I to, you know, dog that? But don't tell me I gotta buy one. So, sorry, that's about as political as I'll get. I dig the technology in it, though. There's no doubt about it. Anything that pushes the edge on technology, I'm a fan of. So I love electric cars. I think they're cool as hell. Especially the things that we've been able to learn about batteries and that technology there, how to control it, how to charge them. You know, that's all cool stuff. And, you know, innovation drives that technology, and I love that. I've got no problem with that at all. I think that's just about the coolest thing ever. But again, don't tell me I have to drive one. Let's look at the chat here. Change my 2-barrel to a 4-barrel, and your Edelbrock playlist guided me through it. Cool. I appreciate that. Your kit, Blaze Garage, your Holley kit came with 4.5. I guess that's common, or could be common. Depends on the CFM, I guess. I know a lot of the 600, 650s, I think, come with 6.5s. The Edelbrock kit that I just showed you, those all come with 6.5s. So, neither here nor there, I guess. But yeah, if you need a different size power valve, for sure. We're far enough into this video that YouTube won't gig me on this, but it's Yingling night tonight, by the way. So, cheers to all of y'all. Oh, I worked hard for those today. There's cross-threading bolts. Yeah, unfortunately, me too. It happens. Manual choke in the winter. It's certainly possible. You know, a good cable operated one is the way I would prefer to use, just simply because it's you know, you can control how much choke it gives, and you know, you don't want to be sitting there trying to feather the gas, trying to give it enough when, you know, a choke works. If you've got the choke on there, for sure. If you've hacked that off, or if you got a XP series or a race style carburetor that doesn't have it on there, then it's a little more difficult, that's for sure. But it's not unheard of. You can certainly do it. I've done it. I think we probably all have at some point. But unless you're in that negative 20 range that somebody was in earlier. Manual choke on the British cars. auto choke opens too fast sometimes. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Sometimes you're right, it does. And then you certainly get into a much more richer condition, that's for sure. Something in mind. But, yeah, having a little more control over it with a manual choke's not bad, I guess. So, okay, where are we at? So, metering blocks are done. Oh, no, they're not. One thing on these idle mixture screws, I absolutely hate idle mixture screws. Not because I hate them, it's because everybody farts around with them all the time. There's no reason to. I see people popping the hood at, car shows or whatever, and they're underneath there farting around with the idle mixture screws. Once you get past 1,000 RPM, the idle mixture screws are redundant. You go into the main circuit on the carburetor, and that's where the boosters come into play, and that's what meters the fuel. Idle mixture screws are not... It's just so frustrating to see people monkey with them. So what you need to do on a used carburetor, like this one is, the AED kit that somebody mentioned earlier has new mixture screws in it, which is a bonus. I think it comes with 4 of them. Huge bonus, but always take and run your fingernail up the edge to the tip. If you can feel a ridge on there at all, go ahead and replace them. These were pretty good, if I remember right. And where that ridge will come from is people, Elephant Man, torquing the thing down in there because they fart around with them too much. You don't need to. There is absolutely no reason to. People just monkey with those way too much, and it gets frustrating after a while because people will start to complain about, well, I tuned my carburetor, but man, I can't get the thing to work. What did you do? Well, I keep playing with the idle mixture screws. Buddy, that isn't tuning. That's just a basic setup of the carburetor. But they think they're tuning, so I hate monkeying with these things. Or I hate it when I get people calling or sending me email or messages or whatever that they can't get anything done on the carburetor, and they go, I keep playing with the idle mixture screws. Okay, what's the problem? Well, when I'm going about 45 miles per hour and I try to roll hard into the gas, nothing happens. Buddy, you are way past idle mixture screw territory. That don't fly anymore. But I guess that's the reason why, just to get irritated by it. It's not for any other reason than ignorance. And ignorance isn't a bad word. People get so pissed off when I use that word. I'm ignorant about tons of things. I'm ignorant about, what size dress what size dress my wife wears. I'm completely ignorant on that. Don't ask me to go to Kohl's or Home Depot or wherever the hell they buy their... I guess they don't buy it at Home Depot. I'm going to get in trouble now. But I'm ignorant about that. It's not a bad deal. When you assemble these, just run them all the way down. And then this is a 2 corner, which means that the idle mixture screws are only on the primary side. To always know that, because it's got the power valve side. There is no idle mixture screws on the secondary, but it certainly can have them. If you do, it'll depend on how much you turn these out. You're going to get a million opinions on this. I just go a turn and a half. So that's seated. There's half. There's 1. There's 1.5. That would get you started. And then you can figure out when you set the idle mixture screws. There's half. There's 1. There's 1.5. And then once you set them when you're on the vehicle, the vacuum gauge and attack, you're pretty much done at that point. So please stop messing with them. All right, what else are we missing here? Getting down to the nitty gritty. Put those jets aside here. Oh, we do need that. Because for whatever reason, that accelerator pump rod was off here. I don't know if... so rebuild kits will come with the little C-clip that you need in it. Most all of them do anyway. I don't think I've seen one that doesn't, to be honest. They all do. But just a little clip snaps on there, so. Alright. What else we got here? Like I said, I usually just do all the pre-assembly type stuff first. Oh, you know what? I forgot something. Somebody didn't yell at me. That's okay. That's okay. Can always tell which side is the left side, which or the front and the primary and the secondary. It's where the threads are at. So they're typically on this style of carburetor, street type carburetors. The threads always go on the driver's side. So this is the primary. And I forgot to put the little check deal in there. So I think this was the one that had the boogered up. Maybe it wouldn't. But yeah, you can certainly lay all these parts out in an area that I should pay attention to what I'm doing on the camera so you guys can see what I'm doing. But it's always best to try to lay things out. Oop, that's the one that was boogered up. That way you don't do what I'm doing right now and then go back and re-put a check in. Check valve back in it. And actually I probably should have done this before I put the float in. It's a little bit easier. But it's just a check and it just feeds right in there. Let's see it. See that hole? I guess I should do that first. See that little step? You need to pull that through. So what I do is I will kind of push that down a little bit. Sometimes you can push them all the way in. But all you need to do is take that little nub while you're pushing and pull up. Sometimes you'll pull it right out of there, but I guess you can kind of see that. So that little nub made it through. And then you don't need to, but I usually just snip them off a little bit. Yep. So, yeah, we'll go back together. But yeah, forgot what I was talking about. But yeah, you'll do this. Hell, I've been doing this for 30 some years. Well, longer than that actually. And I still do that, so don't feel bad if you do it. It's not a big deal. But that's why some people are very, if you guys watch Piston Twisted Garage, great guy, Canadian from Nova Scotia, I think it is, and he's been doing some bike builds, but when you watch that guy when he lays stuff out, they are perfect. You know, these aren't perfect, but his hardware's all lined out all perfectly, and you know, if his hardware was sitting like that, it would literally kill him, I think. But super good dude. Definitely check his channel out. He did a couple of builds on a TRW classic motorcycle from the 50s, and he rebuilt the Solex carburetor on there. Really cool deal. Tool Junkie, my man. Good to see you. That one's for you, brother. Thank you for that. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate you seeing you around. You've been around for quite a long time. He's one of my oldest followers on this channel. So I appreciate that, sir. You're a good dude. Hope everything's well in your life. Everything's good in mine. For the most part, now I got this live stream figured out. So I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Number on the power valves. Yes, I know it's the vacuum. Okay, my little idle screw. Just became a pop. Dude, I don't even know what to say to that other than congratulations. Your life is about to change. It already has changed. Best thing in the world. There is, hands down, I would give up everything that I've ever done with cars and trucks and everything to do that all over again. You will, it's amazing how awesome that'll make you feel. So here's to you and the missus, and I hope things are going well. That's killer news, man. I'm so stoked to hear that. That made my entire night. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. That is absolutely awesome news. Alright. These little thin gaskets here go underneath the hold down for the nozzles. And we were 32 and 28, I think. That's 28. 32. So that's one thing I'm missing. I am missing the little check. Let's see if I've got it in one of these other little kits I didn't open up. We're gonna need those too, I guess. Let's see if they come in the rebuild kit. Or this is going to be a short video because I don't have all the pieces, parts here. Yeah, this is where I get to the spot where I'm irritated. Because I had those, and in my kit, but we're just gonna have to leave them out. Oh. In my other tuning box, I had these, but I guess that's gonna be a knock on the Edelbrock kit if these don't come with the little check. Spear. Damn it. Alright. We'll just have to make a note to do that. We'll leave the boosters out. So, well, that's stupid. There's my other gasket. Always something. Alright. Those we'll leave out. Alrighty. Let's get rid of some of this other stuff we don't need. Well, that stinks. Alright. Well, we're really close to being done then. So, primary side. Now these are directional, so very, very simple. Remember, threaded side for the front bowl. Still thinking about that, Tool Junkie. That's awesome, man. your life is gonna be so much better after this. So killer. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna hold off on that. I'm gonna go ahead and put the base plate together first. Makes it a little bit easier when you put the bowls on. So, I think that's close. We'll find out. Now that I just dropped it. Also helps to pay attention to what you're doing. Alright. Now, I know a lot of folks will tell you, and I don't disagree with this, but one of the popular things on the Holley is to leave these center screws out, because depending on the intake, they can loosen up and fall in there. At least that's the thought anyway. And I don't disagree with it. I will tell you that if it was my carburetor, I usually leave those out too, because quite honestly, you're not getting anything out of it. People go, well, if the carburetor gets hot, it's going to distort, and not having those 2 points of pressure, you know, to hold the base plate down to the main body. Dude, if your carburetor's that hot, you got way bigger problems than the aluminum distorting. So I will usually leave them out of there, and where'd my other one go? Usually leave them out of there and not worry about it. So like I said, like everything else, just snug. These don't need to be, like I say, elephant man tight. Just till they're seated, and just a snug little turn. That's it. So, alright. Now we can get back to that. See here in just a second, I'll make it a little bit easier to assemble these. Good. Guess this also helps to pay attention to what the hell you're doing. I promise you I have not had this much beer tonight. It just appears that way. I'm nervous. You guys make me nervous. Oh. Some people will tell you don't use these. Use the screw or the slot end. I don't really care. You know, if you're at the track, you should have tools with you anyway, so having this little 5/16 socket's not that big of a deal. If the hardware that came in it, I'll just go ahead and reuse it. Not that big of a deal. So, alright. You can hear my German Shepherd barking in the background there. Let's see what's in the chat. Let's see what's in from Brazil. That is awesome. Bubba Ayers, how you doing? Pinchy, did you see the check ball? I don't live in Tennessee. Yes, you can use a check ball. I usually use a little spear, but yeah, it's certainly acceptable. Do I live in Tennessee? I do not. I actually live in Mississippi. Technically, I'm in the unincorporated area of Olive Branch, but just south of Memphis. Moved here, I don't know, almost 5 years ago from the Seattle area. That tells you how exciting my life is. I love that area up there. If you're from the Pacific Northwest, it is absolutely gorgeous. Damn it. Somebody had to have caught what I left off here. But yeah, I love the Pacific Northwest. I actually lived in Pierce County, or not in Pierce County, or I was in Pierce County, not in King County, which is good because King County is where all the riffraff's at. So I left the damn gaskets off. It's all over the place tonight. Again, that's my second beer tonight. I'm not. I promise you, I'm not. That's one thing too. That Edelbrock kit comes with the hard plastic bowl screwed. little gaskets. Some people complain that these don't work that well. They do. The AED kit comes with them. I think they're white in the AED kit, but it doesn't really matter. You can use them, or you can use the old paper gasket. It's fine. You're not going to... That's typically not the spot where these leak, so you should be in good shape. So don't worry about them. I use them on pretty much everything, or whatever the kit has in it. So just thought of something I didn't tell you, but we'll do it here on the rear bowl. But yeah, don't worry about that too much. Some people get very picky on hardware and gaskets and everything that come in these. I will tell you, the AED kit comes with the red gaskets. Hang tight. I think I got a couple over here. Oh. Yeah. If I can get through my jungle. Those are the red gaskets that everybody calls. I can't remember the actual name of them, but these are really nice. I've had some of these that have been on for quite a long time. Kind of see the reddish tint to it. This lighting's too aggressive, but anyway, pink, reddish, whatever. Those are really good. They don't stick at all. Very, very nice gasket. So. Did forget. So anyway, the AED kit comes with those in it, I believe. Or at least the last ones I've had them. So certainly like those. Those are actually out of the Edelbrock VRS carburetor. They all come with that style gasket. So absolutely nice. Absolutely love those. We need gaskets for those. So. Forgot them, which happens. But these aren't bad, the gaskets that come in the Edelbrock kit. What was the last one that I took apart? It was one that I did for somebody. And these pulled right off. But I've also had some that are this type of material. They're kind of a different material than like that Holley blue gasket, and a little bit better than just like the regular old paper gaskets that these come in. But these are a little bit better, and they shouldn't tear on you. If they do, it's just age and whatnot. So don't worry about it. But they are nicer to disassemble. This one was a little older carburetor, and it had the blue gaskets in it. So, okay, getting down to the nitty gritty here. Let me put my gaskets on here so I don't forget about it this time. So, let me look back into the chat and wet my lips here. Oh. Let's watch. Did I finish that conversation? Man, I'm scatterbrained. Yeah, we did. We talked about living in Olive Branch. So, Rally Chaw. I don't know. I will butcher it, so I apologize. But I appreciate you stopping by. Again, these metering block gaskets are one way, so little nubs on there. So. And same with the bowl gasket. You have this little one down here at the bottom, and then the 4 across the top. So easy way to make sure you get them on there right. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I will keep this carburetor for a while. It might go on the website, I don't know. I come across 600s fairly frequently for whatever reason. 600s and 650s fairly frequently. All right, now what I was going to tell you about. when you put these on, okay, get your hardware ready. Just don't go on because it's a little difficult with that accelerator pump. So just lift that up, hold that lever down with a finger, lift that up, and then that way when you slide it on there, makes it easier to see how it fell down there. There we go. That way when you get these start tightening up the hardware, if you don't do that, you'll be swearing and bending things and tweaking, and it's just easier to do it right there. So I forget that too half the time, but it's usually because I got somebody in my ear, or I'm watching some other YouTube video or listen to it in the background or whatever. Speaking of YouTube videos, I have a killer interview coming up with Lake Speed Jr. Did it last Monday, or this Monday. We're still in the same week. That is a super technical video. But Lake does a really, really awesome job at not... I don't want to sound insulting here, and he'll tell you the exact same thing, but he does a very good job at not talking over people's heads. Because when you talk about tribology and the study of oil, you can get into some really geeky stuff. And he touches a little bit on it. And if you watch any of his YouTube videos on his Total Seal website, who he works for now, he's the Vice President of Sales and Marketing, or his Speed Diagnostics. We're going to talk about both of those in the video, but he can get super geeky technical, and he does a very good job, because I asked him, I said, look, primarily what we do here anyway is talk about, muscle car era type of vehicles, and most of the folks that watch my channel are folks that are looking for how to keep their hot rod and classic, on the road and, doing what it's supposed to. And he said, cool. And he did very well at talking at that level. So you guys will absolutely, it's an hour-long video, but I've got chapters that are in it, so if you click down in the description, you can watch them and get to the chapter that you want to go to. So I am so stoked about that one. And then I've got another interview scheduled here in a couple of weeks, maybe another month. Billy Godbold, the cam guru from Comp Cams. I'm sure you've heard his name on Engine Masters or 100 other places. Videos, whatnot, interviews with the hot rod guys. Billy is an absolute genius when it comes to designing lobe profiles. I'm going to bend this bracket over. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of out of adjustment. That's where it's going. I'm just going to tweak it here. See how all we did? Just straighten it out a little bit. But anyway, Billy is an absolute genius when it comes to lobe design. Let me grab a camshaft. Here's one of the dead ones from the video I did, but just to tease that, when you look at a lobe profile, I guess when you look at it from the side, yeah. So you look at that lobe right here, you've got all sorts of different profiles of how quickly this will allow the lifter to open up. You will look at how it closes on the other side, the duration on the top side of how long that valve stays open, and you can copy these as best you want, and there's plenty of knockoff companies out there. Some very big companies out there that have just knocked off cam lobes trying to do it, but unless you actually have the print, you are not going to knock off that lobe. And the lobe designs that Billy has come up with, I will put a comp cam up against anybody's cam on the market, period, hands down, don't care who it is. I don't mean to get a little controversial there, if that's a controversial saying or not, but Billy builds horsepower. There is a reason why all those big name engine builders call Billy first. So we're going to have a fun conversation with him. He's got a new book coming out, or has his first book coming out. So that's going to be a really fun deal. Damn it, I was going to do something else before I got this far. Those are a little tight. But all we're doing is just making sure that the throttle blade's open, how stiff they are. These are a little stiff. And make sure your accelerator pumps are working. You got the cams that are still on there. We'll talk about that. We'll do some Holley tuning videos this year. But that's all we're doing is just checking the operation. This one's a little sketchy, so we may put a little bit of lubricant on the graphite lubricant on the springs here. That'll usually help. A little bit squeaky there, it's just dry. What I was going to show you, I guess let's finish the Billy conversation here. What I was going to tell you about that though is there is a lot of horsepower to be made obviously in a camshaft. And then on a modern LS engine, a little bit on the Coyote, some of it on the Gen 3 Hemi. It is not uncommon with a tune and a cam swap to make 100 horsepower. That's not changing anything else. That is very, very common. Sometimes you can go much more than that. If you look at some of the profiles and the dyno stuff on the comp website, it's what I'm most familiar with. So, but if you look at any of that, they will advertise what those horsepower and some of those, I hate this term, but I'm going to use it anyway, stage 2, stage 3 kits. Hate that. It's so generic. It's awful. Late model Camaro, Challenger, whatever it is, Mustang, there's some of those cam profiles swaps that you can make 150, 160 horsepower with a cam change and a tune. Absolutely ridiculous. Killer stuff. Well, that's what you get in a cam swap. So, what I was going to show you, I guess I'll look at the chat real quick here. See if I missed anything. Didn't check pump faces. Not following you. Illuminati were on most drag cars. Don't know about that. Crane was really at the forefront of the racing side of things. Very, very cool company. Unfortunately, that brand is deteriorated or did deteriorate over the years. And it just got to be such a small company that Comp had owned Crane for 12, 15 years, something like that. And it just got to the point where they weren't selling enough, so they shuttered the brand. Beginning of 2021, I think it was. I'd have to look back and see. But those Crane profiles are very old. The Illuminati profiles are a little more modern because, again, Comp owns Illuminati, and I think Billy tweaked some of those profiles, but I think a lot of it he left alone because for whatever reason people just get so wrapped up on, well, that's what my granddad had in whatever, or that's what my dad had in his 62 Bel Air or whatever it was, and that's what they want. It's got to have that duration and that lift and LSA and all that. Go with the modern stuff. Go with a more modern profile. There's better things out there, that's for sure. Ooh, that's a little stiff. Need a little lubrication on some of this stuff. But anyway, the modern stuff is way, way more capable of building more power. Because you also have to take a look at it too in this way. We're not running leaded fuel anymore. The fuel today is absolutely horrible. It's atrocious. Go pump 10 gallons of gas or 5 gallons of gas into a 5-gallon jug and, put it in a clear container when you get home or something and just see the water that's in it. Ethanol attracts water. And with water comes contaminants. And leaded fuel didn't do that. The quality of the fuel was so much better back in the day. well, the cam profiles have changed a little bit to match that. So I always run a more modern profile and everything. It's just you're going to be a lot more happier with the power it builds, and it'll be a little bit more friendly with today's crappy fuel. Anyway, I use these gauge wires. I guess you can kind of... The camera's way better than I thought it was going to be. Anyway, you can see those wires. I should have done this before. I didn't, but I've already blown through it. This carburetor has the bleeds in it, air bleeds in the top. Okay, and if you take the wire, it's a good idea to blow through with carburetor cleaner or something under pressure so you can see it come out the main body. But it's always a good idea also too to chase them. You know, make sure that there's nothing in it. One of these I think is a 30 gauge and the other one's a 22 or 26 maybe, I can't remember. But it's a good idea just to kind of chase through there and just make sure you don't have anything in there. It's not something you need to do, but it's something quick and cheap and easy. And usually you'll blow through with some carburetor cleaner. Actually, it goes into the ultrasonic cleaner. Good grief, I'm forgetting everything tonight. Go into the ultrasonic cleaner first, and then get washed out, and then I'll blow through there with carburetor cleaner, compressed air, whatever, and then I'll run these through there and then run some carburetor cleaner back through it just to make sure they're clear, because that's what meters the signal of how much fuel is delivered by the power valve, by the boosters, and you want to make sure those are all clear so they're operating the way they're supposed to. So I was going to show that to you before I put it all together, but again, I forgot. I should probably start creating like some notes. Create like an outline or something. That would be like really professional if I did that. I don't know that I'm at that level yet. So anyway, there's our 600. Normally I'm not that professional. So anyway, all right. Let me think. What else did we not talk about? Yeah, we'll have to get the nozzles taken care of. I'll put those jets away. Let's see what's in the chat. Joe sold the company. Yeah, Lunati was sold quite a long time ago. Comp has owned them for 10, 12 years, something like that, maybe 15 years. I think they've owned Lunati a little bit. Well, no, maybe it wasn't. I think Lunati was... They've owned Crane longer than they've owned Lunati, because Holley owned Lunati for a few years, and then Comp bought everything, the cam and rotating assembly stuff. So all of that stuff has been made by Comp lifters, Comp cam cores. It's all ground in the same facility. All the Comp and Crane stuff, or excuse me, Lunati and Crane stuff was all done in the same facility here in Memphis. So not that you care about the history of it. I'm just giving it to you anyway. Married to Ralph's daughter. Yep. Hey, there's Piss and Twisted Garage. Remember I was talking to you guys about him earlier? And his Solex carburetor rebuild. If you're a motorcycle guy at all, you definitely want to go check that channel out, subscribe to him, and watch those cool videos he did. And you will see. Sorry, I was making fun of you a little. Not really making fun of you earlier, but telling you how organized and neat and clean and everything is when you lay things out to build stuff. And I absolutely admire it. But I'm sorry, if you watched this earlier, you'll see that I was not nearly as organized as you are, but I absolutely love that about you. So anyway, Piss and Twisted Garage, everybody. Definitely go check it out. It's a very, very cool channel. You will not be disappointed. I watch it. I watch a half a dozen YouTube channels. Actually, quite a bit of it's not automotive related. I kind of like the outdoors type stuff. Mainly the folks that go live off grid somewhere, or we'll go camp in the woods for 3-4 days or something like that in the middle of winter to get away from it. I just admire that somebody can walk away. So anyway, I guess that maybe tells you a little bit too much more about me, I guess. But I love those channels, are cool. But Piss and Twisted is a channel that I watch, so you definitely need to definitely need to check him out. Burn from the beginning. Selling of these carbs. Yeah, I do. If you go to my website, maybe I'll do another short video. I did it a couple years ago. Pardon me, just a moment. Another one for Tool Junkie and his new kid. I did a year or so ago, did a short video, 5-6 minute video or something, just showing the inventory that I have. I will tell you that I've got a lot of inventory right now. I've just traded for a lot of stuff. This Holley's one of them. This one's mine. Every carburetor you've seen me do on this channel, other than the Demon, but I paid for that. I paid for that right to do that. But every carburetor you've ever seen me on the channel with has been mine. I don't. That's why you don't see me videos of tuning other people's vehicles on here, because I don't feel that's right to do that. Especially if the vehicle's here. Sure, I could tell them about it. Hey, I'm going to put you on my YouTube channel, whatever. But it's too uncomfortable a conversation. I don't want it to come back at some point and somebody not saying something nice about somebody's vehicle and whatever. So that's why the GMC truck, I've been did the tuning videos on it, because it's mine. So everything you see here that I've done is mine, just for that reason. So but yes, I do sell carburetors. God, I keep going off on I have ADD or something tonight, or ADHD or whatever that's called. But yes, I do sell them. They're on my website. The link to the channel is in the About section of the channel here, or it's in the banner ad. You can click on MCS Carbs, and you can see my website. The website's there for a lot of things. It's not just the stuff I'm selling. I do have a few carburetors on there that I sell and some other little things. But there's some resources tab on there where you can download a lot of the documents that we've talked about on this channel, this fuel system setup ones, the carburetor stuff that I've done is on there. If there's a diagram that I've used here on the channel, a lot of times I'll put that on there. So that resource link is there for you to download free. I don't charge for any of that crap. It's just I want to give it to you so you can use it to work on whatever you're working on. So, but good question. Thank you for that. When I made in Mississippi. They are now, or they were made in Mississippi. Edelbrock and Comp Cams is now housed in Olive Branch, Mississippi. But the 3406 Democrat location of Comp Cams, where their cam shop is at, that's where Luminati cams are made. The techs for Luminati, I think, I'm sure they're at the Olive Branch location, which is in Mississippi, but technically all the cams are ground at the Democrat Road location in Memphis. So, do you bench test them? No, I do not bench test carburetors. I've thought about doing that. It's a little expensive, but usually what I'll end up doing, if it's a CFM that is something that I own, when the Chevelle was back together with a very large cubic inch, usually a 750 to a 950 I can test on that one. And then now with the GMC truck, I can test a 500 all the way up to a 650, 750. So I can wet test them that way if you want, and then disassemble them, clean them, but I have done it that way. For the most part, though, I don't. But I'm not that picky about. I'm trying to think here. I had a carburetor returned to me a couple of years ago, and it was full of garbage, so I know what he did. He just didn't change his filters. But I'm not that complicated with stuff like that. If I sell you a carburetor, it doesn't work, or it doesn't fit, or it's the wrong size, but we usually go through all that beforehand. If it's a rebuild, I don't accept rebuilds back right now. I'm not doing anything. Riley's Rebuilds, you can see the sticker down there in the corner. Riley's Rebuilds, they're doing all the Edelbrock carburetors now. I've stopped doing a lot of the Edelbrock rebuilds because I want those girls to do that, or I want to support those girls. But forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, if you when I was doing the Edelbrock rebuilds, if you said, "Hey, I want you to rebuild the Edelbrock carburetor with address," I will make you take the air horn assembly out because I want to look. Well, this one's the cut up one. I want to look into the float bowls and make sure there's not, a bunch of garbage in there that's deteriorated away, that's not full of chalky white nasty mess. This was the Ventura of an Edelbrock carburetor. We did that on the booster video a few weeks ago. And then when you're buying a carburetor, I will help you size the correct size so you're not getting too much CFM. So usually don't run into any issues like that, but it's a good question. I know I went down probably 400 different. I do. I have ADHD tonight for whatever reason. Let's see here. I think I got everything. Oh, thank you, Rob. Appreciate the question. Just trying to scroll through here. I apologize if I missed your question. I'll try to watch it here for the next couple of minutes because we're done basically. So, but eventually this carburetor will go on the website. So, if you want a carburetor that was done on a live stream, I guess this is it. So, like I said, I think what I will end up doing is I think what I'll end up doing now that I think about it is not a performance test between this and the VRS carburetor that I have. I think what I will do is more of I will tune them both the best that I can for street performance, and then I think what we'll do is just hook an AFR gauge up to it and just see how good it is, how close we can get it to those target ranges. 13.5, 13.7 is typically a good cruise AFR when you're talking about something that's not too lean, not too rich, and then 12.5 on a normally aspirated is pretty decent, wide open throttle. So we'll just see how good they are. I have a feeling in that instance, just I guess to tease that, is I'm going to assume that both of them I can dial in pretty close to that, especially if it's a newer type Holley that's got the air bleeds in it. They're a little bit easier to adjust. So I don't think we're going to run into any issue. Holleys are a great carburetor. There's no question about it. Every carburetor is situational. Those of you that have watched this channel a lot have heard me say that quite a bit over the years, that everything is situational. And when somebody asks me, or says, thermoquads are garbage, or quadrajets are the most garbage carburetor ever, Holleys are awful, they just dump fuel mindlessly, Edelbrocks are the worst carburetor ever, they're junk. Everything's situational. And the example that I use is, okay, tell me what the best cam profile is for a big block Chevy, or a small block Ford, or a Windsor, or a LA Mopar motor. There isn't one. It's situational. You pick the cam to fit what you're working on, and that's the same with a carburetor. There are certain situations that I would not run a Edelbrock style carburetor. There are certain situations that I would not run a Holley style carburetor. It's just, that's what it is. You pick it to fit what you're working on. So there is no, as long as it's a good brand name like any of those that I mentioned. There are some out there that I'm not a very big fan of. I'm not going to knock them, but it's all the Chinese knockoff stuff. If you look at some of the, I guess I am going to knock it. I probably shouldn't, but it's a fact. You look at any of those knockoff carburetors from Summit, Proform, they're all offshore, and not that everything that comes from China is garbage. Again, we've talked about this quite a bit on this channel. But I will tell you that I've been to China and I've seen this situation. So I'm going to show you a little example here. Let me see if I can find. Let's do this. All right. This may be the easiest way to do this. Yep. All right. Just pretend that's a brand new one, even though it's been hit on with a hammer, obviously. Okay. When you go to China, and you tell them, you give them a sample of this and say, I want you to make this screwdriver for me. Tell me what you can make. I'll be there in 6 weeks. You can show me what they got. When you go in and sit down with those folks, they will do the normal thing. The first half hour is just getting to know each other, take a tour of the facility, ask you about your family, yada, yada, yada. When you start talking business, here's how they do it. And I visited 4 factories while I was over there. And I'm going to make the assumption that all of them are exactly the same. They will bring in 3 samples. And they will tell you, this is without a doubt the most impressive, world-class. We will put this up against anything. Whatever this is. It's just a screwdriver, but pretend it's a carburetor, a connecting rod, or whatever it is. Doesn't matter. This is the best of the best. It's got the best quality, the best material, the tightest tolerances. You will not find anything better than that in the world. That's it. That's the best we make. And it's the highest quality, the best material, whatever. This one is a little less than that. We use a little bit less quality, a little bit less tolerance. The CNC time on it might not be the same. The material quality might be a little bit different, but it still performs the job fairly well. Does really good. It's not the best performer that we have, but it's really, really good. Then they will lay out the third one. And they don't say it like this, but this is the way I interpreted it, and it's pretty accurate. This is the biggest piece of junk that we can make and still call it a connecting rod, carburetor, crankshaft, turbocharger, whatever it is. I can't give you any guarantee on that. You are going to have whatever failure rate on that. Just is what it is. There's no, you buy this, it's over with, it's done, that's it. This one will give you a bit of a warranty on. This one maybe give you a stock adjustment or a warranty adjustment on this. This one you're screwed. It's on your own. That's it. This is the most expensive one. This is a little less money. This is the cheapest piece of garbage they can make. Now, when folks buy a knockoff from overseas, when you go onto Alibaba or you contact one of those manufacturers, what do you think most manufacturers or most people here in the U.S. will order in? It's not that one, I will tell you. It's certainly not that one. That one's not even in the equation, as far as I know. It's this one. This is what they will bring over. Why? Because they will make the most margin on it. Let's say that retail, I'm using examples here. Let's say retail on this thing is $100. Landed cost, meaning the cost to land it here in the U.S., so the cost of the ride over here, the cost of the product, the taxes and duty, customs, whatever you have to pay for, and then the freight to get it to your door. That's landed at your door. Maybe this retails for $100, and you've got $10 in it. No problem. If I get 10% of these back and I have to throw away 10% and send somebody another one, I'm not out. I still made a ton of money on that thing. That's why most Chinese offshore stuff you have to be careful of, because it's the cheapest piece of crap that they can make, and that's what you will get. And they're okay. Those people that import in product, they're okay with some failures. It's okay to throw a few of these away and have to give them, because if a majority of them are still working, or a 80%, stay in the market type of deal is acceptable, they still made a ton of money on it. They don't make near as much money as that high quality one. And like I say, that middle one, I think it's kind of ignored for the most time. But every single one of those folks that I met, it's been 10 years since I was over there, but it was the same everywhere we went. Almost the exact same sales pitch. Like, those folks all sat down together and determined that was the way they were going to talk about that stuff. And I was exaggerative. They don't tell you it's the biggest piece of junk, but the stuff what they told you on the highest quality, that's pretty accurate. They will put it up against anything in the marketplace. If you want to bring in a connecting rod bolt from ARP or one of those P1 or one of those folks that makes them for top fuel cars, F1 cars, whatever, they will tell you, bring all those samples with you. We will test them side by side, and it will show you that mine has the better tensile strength, that has the better, torque rating on it, whatever it is. They're usually pretty good about that stuff. But most folks will go over there and buy the cheapest piece of junk possible. So didn't really plan on going down that route tonight, but it's certainly worth mentioning. So when you look at Chinese knockoff stuff in the marketplace, and it's typically the house branded stuff, and again, I'm not going to pick on any of those folks, but you'll know, You know, if it's a brand you've never heard of, it's not a mainstream brand, and they tell you it's our house brand. It's the cheapest piece of junk that they could get from China. So, is what it is. So, well, I hope that stirred up something. Let me check the chat, and then I guess we'll get this thing closed out. Corporate greed killed quality. I think part of that is it was so hard to manufacture anything in the U.S. And I'm 100% supportive of that. I've worked in manufacturing before. I've worked for quite a few of those companies in my lifetime, and you've got to increase your profit margin because you have to pay for R&D time. You have to pay for high-quality employees. You have to pay for lights and buildings and all that other stuff. And I certainly get, making as much money as you can because you're going to spend it. You're going to reinvest it back in the company. And if you don't make a lot, like by selling the highest quality stuff where your margins shrink down, it's hard to pay for R&D time and all that. So I'll get off my soapbox on that one. If anybody wants to talk about China. So, same issues, no umbrella in the rear pump. Yeah, we didn't put one in the rear pump there, Joe. Advantage parts for bikes. Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, when they're not made by an OE supplier anymore, and you either have to try new old stock or whatever's available today, sometimes the quality just isn't as good. So, well, cool. If you've got any questions about this and you're watching it after the live stream's over, just leave them in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Sorry for the rant on the Chinese stuff, but it's a topic that I know a little bit about. I won't say that I'm a subject matter expert on it, but I have stepped foot in that country, and I know a little bit about it. So, what else did we talk about? We talked about the interview with Lake Speed Jr. Super Bowl Sunday is next week. I don't know if I can say that. Who the hell knows? So I won't do a video next week. The week after, the Sunday after, is when the Lake Speed interview is going to drop. Again, you don't want to miss that one. I know that's clickbaitish type of stuff, but you literally don't want to miss that one. We're going to talk about engine oils. We're talking about diesel oil specifically and why that's not the best formulation for a muscle car, a classic car. We talk about surface finish and rings, and that the migration from that, really thick, cast and steel rings from the past to very thin 1 millimeter, half millimeter top rings, and 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter oil ring type of stuff. He talks about all that stuff. It gets a little technical, but it doesn't go too over the top. You will really love that one. It's a great interview. And then, like I say, maybe a month from now, I'm just waiting on Billy to tell me that he's ready. We'll be interviewing Billy Godbold. So more than likely what I'll do is I'll drop a note in the community section, and then I will drop one on my Instagram deal asking for questions that you want me to ask Billy. Because when it comes to cam profile stuff, hands down, there is nobody in the world, I think, that is better at cam profile design, understanding the metallurgy behind it than Billy. I've got a whole list of good questions to ask him, but certainly I would take any of yours as well, too. So we'll do that. Like I said, I'll drop that to let you guys leave those comments or questions that you want me to ask Billy. If you Google Billy Godbold, you'll see his name everywhere. I think the Engine Master guys mention him all the time because Comp supplies all the camshafts for that show. And they're pretty big fans. Steve Burley's a very big fan of Billy, and the whole world is because he's just a brilliant engineer. So anyway, that's another good interview I got coming up. That'll be March sometime, I guess. Like I said, he's got a book coming out, so I wanted to time it for that so we could help him, promote his book. So good dude. You'll enjoy that interview too. I haven't done it yet, but I think you'll have a good time. AFR's got that cheaper line of Edelbrock was casting all the AFR heads for quite a long time, and then I don't know what happened there, whether they just decided they didn't have the bandwidth to do it, but AFR does have a cheaper Chinese cylinder head. And again, it's okay. If the quality's good and AFR will stand behind it, I'm okay with it. It's still their cylinder head. They're the ones that have their name on it. So I don't knock that too bad. But, if you want a cheaper cylinder head, then sometimes you have to make some concessions. And in that case, it's going with the offshore head. So cool. Well, I was going to set a timer for this, and I forgot to do that. But and I really haven't drank a lot of that beer. I don't know why. I'm going to fix that here in just a minute. Yeah, I was going to set a timer and try to keep this at an hour, but I knew we'd talk about other things. Like I said, ranting on for 10 minutes about China. What an idiot. Why did I do that? Nobody cares. So, Promax heads. Skip White, Promax. Speedmaster, kind of. I'm generally not a fan of. I don't like those because what they've done in most cases is take an AFR, a Brodix, a Performer RPM cylinder head. They've sent it, or they've gotten the casting on it, or whatever it is that they did. They've sent all that information to a Chinese source and knocked them off. They didn't do any of their own R&D. Our own R&D usually typically occurs at the other end of it. Now, I'm saying all of those manufacturers do. I don't know enough about the Promax cylinder head to know that, but I'm generally not a fan of some of those Chinese knockoff heads. I will say, though, that set of Speedmaster heads that I looked at a couple years ago, well, they're buried. I can't get them out. But we looked at the ones for the big block. They were pretty spot on. The runner size was good on them. The run out on the valve, which is typically where the cheaper Chinese stuff runs into an issue. You get way too much run out. The concentricity of the valve isn't very good. And those were pretty spot on. So I'll give them some credit. They've got a good offshore supplier of that product. So some of them were okay. Again, it's just, I don't knock anybody for wanting to buy a cheaper whatever, but there's a trade-off in that. Part of that is you're sort of supporting an American company that's selling it, but all that manufacturing came from offshore. Edelbrock still does all of their cylinder heads, intake manifolds, carburetors, 100%. Other than their E Street series, I think some of those are offshore. But when you get down to that price point, you have to. But all of their core products, superchargers, water pumps, are all still made right here in the U.S. The foundries in San Jacinto, California. I've been there. I put some pictures on Instagram a few years ago, 2 years ago, 2 or 3, I don't remember. It was before COVID, I think. Well, it had to have been before COVID. But I saw their foundry. I saw where it was all being made. And CNC machines are right there. The others are, intake manifolds are literally less than half an hour from where I live in Olive Branch. I've been to that facility. I've watched them. They make those CNC, those manifolds right here. They're all cast in California. They come here, and it's a good thing. But I get it. It's also those products are expensive. You can go buy a cheap Chinese Jags or whatever and save $100 on it, but they didn't do any R&D on it. They just bought it from the supplier over there. So, but again, if that's what you can afford, I'm not going to knock that. That's your decision. It's not mine. There's some things that I wanted that I will do, and that's my rules, not anyone else's. So I don't knock people for buying offshore stuff. It's just you do what you got to do. So, man, I'm still on a soapbox tonight. Damn it. All right, I'm off of that. World Sportsman heads. The World products are still good. I think, and all that stuff. Who owns that? Is that PBM in Louisville that owns that product now? I can't remember. Or is it Race Winning Brands up there in Cleveland? I don't remember, so it doesn't really matter. But the World product stuff's good. Even the stuff that they bring in from offshore, because those products actually started with an engineer in the U.S. that said, okay, I can build a better cylinder head. This thing sucks. I can build a better one. So in that case, even if they've engineered here built and cast and assembled over here and QC'd over here in the U.S. I'm okay with that. Somebody's work. They just had the product made over there. So, all right, that's as far as I'm going down that soapbox, I promise. South Haven. South Haven's nice. I like that. It's a good, nice little town. Get you out of the riffraff of Memphis, that's for sure. So, alrighty. Well, I think we covered pretty much everything. I think I insulted half of you with the Chinese stuff. I apologize for that. Maybe I'll just cut this out of the video and nobody will see it again other than you all. So, we'll see. But anyway, you any questions on the Holley carburetors? I will probably do a few more videos on the Holley stuff this year. I got really in depth on the Edelbrock stuff over the last couple of years, and the next year or so I'm going to do a little bit more on the Holley side of things. Just once I wrap up all the stuff I want to do on the Edelbrock side, then we'll start doing more on the Holley. I don't know if I'm going to get too far on the Quadrajet stuff. I stopped rebuilding those for folks about a year ago just because they're a little finicky, they're a little harder to tune, and I can set it back to a factory calibration fairly easy. But in today's world with fuel and needing a little bit more timing in engines today than what we ran in the 60s and 70s, they're a little bit more difficult to tune. And it just has made people a little bit more picky about them, and they should be. But it's also made it harder for me to get the right stuff to them because I can't say, okay, I'll send you a new hanger, I'll send you some new rods and jets, you install them. It's not that easy. They're not that easy to work on. So I pretty much stopped doing it. I'll do one for somebody here locally, I guess, but other than that, I quit doing them for folks. Even if it's just a factory rebuild, I'm going to send you one off of my, 72 Chevy pickup truck, and I just want the exact same thing back. I even quit doing those. Just folks are getting too crabby about it. So it is what it is. So cool. Alrighty. Well, I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Thank you all for everything. I do appreciate it. And yeah, I guess we'll catch you on the next one. I guess what time is it? Oh, good grief. Just trying to keep this under an hour, and I think we're at an hour and 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So, all right, I guess I'll let you guys get going. I appreciate it. We will catch you guys on the next one. We'll see you.